to another edition of the MMA Heat podcast. I'm Karyn Bryant here with...
What's up, guys? Alan Jouban with you as well.
That's right, Alan the Wolverine Jouban, Alan Brahma Jouban. You're already healed up, pretty much the eye. It's just barely a little bit in the eye, huh?
Yeah, that's always it. Like when you get the black eye stuff, the blood vessel thing is like the longest thing it takes to heal. So that's almost done. And then my body is kind of still dinked up just from, normal fight stuff. But like I said, it was no injuries this fight, so I'm happy about that. And I think I'm going to make my way into the gym a little bit off and on this week.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about it later in the podcast. But there's a pay-per-view coming up with two of the guys that were on the card that I fought on are fighting again this week.
Exactly.
I'm telling Karyn, I might start going back to the gym. It's crazy how fast some of these younger fighters are making a turnaround and making things happen.
Yeah, of course, we're talking about Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno. They'll be fighting this weekend. But yeah, we'll talk about that and definitely get into... I'm so excited to watch Tony Ferguson fight Charles Oliveira, and at the same time, my heart is breaking that one of those two guys might lose. Like, I'm absolutely devastated about that. But anyway, we'll get into that in a second. We'll talk, of course, about this weekend with Marvin Vettori beating Jacare Hermansson. But in general, how's your holiday spirit going? I mean, we have our tree. We started to decorate it last night. We need to finish up tonight and stuff. But you went full in like right after Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a ton of decorations. You can see I put the things up on the mantle behind me, put my tree up, and I just put a wreath.
Yeah.
Wreath. TH or F?
Wreath
F?
with a TH.
Wreath.
WREATH. Wreath.
There you go. My wreath. We just put it up on the door. A real nice one, actually. So we're done. We're rocking and rolling. I know you don't love to do it until a certain point, or it was after Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah. It
So
was too soon.
To
You can't. It has to be December. For me, it has to be December.
Yeah. Oh, okay, December. See, like, we have nothing traditional about us. I'm just a guy that doesn't think about traditions. Nicole's from Thailand.
Yeah.
So between the two of us, we're like, oh, we're supposed to send a thank you card for this or this. Like, we're just so, like, we do shit whenever. So, but I like it. I love having the lights on throughout the house. I put on the Christmas lights during the day, during the day and the night.
Right.
And little Christmas tunes now and then. It gets you in the spirit.
Does. It does. Yeah, we'll finish decorating the tree, and I put more lights up around the house, and I have like little poinsettia things. Once I get it going, I think I do a pretty good job with it. But yeah, I need it to be December because Thanksgiving being my favorite holiday, I need Thanksgiving to be respected. Alan is all.
Get you. Yeah, you got to throw it on. You got to cook, get that out the way, and then
Exactly. But yeah, so I was back in Vegas this past weekend for Marvin Vettori versus Jacare Hermansson, and going into the fight on Friday, we were talking about how and this brings up another topic, but how Marvin was ranked number 13 going into the fight, and Jacare Hermansson was number 4. Well, then the news came out that Yoel Romero was released from the UFC. So that's why, if people were wondering why, Vettori's number went up to 12 on Saturday, it was because Yoel is gone, which, by the way, like, side note, I'm so sad. I love Yoel. I know people found him problematic at different times, but I really liked him. He was always great to work with, and to me, delivered incredible fights, and I know he missed weight on times. It was bad. But overall, I'm a big Yoel fan, and I'm sad to see him go. I know Dana said something about cutting 50 fighters or something maybe by the end of the year. And when you do look at Yoel's record and how old he is, it makes sense, quote unquote, on paper. It just sucks because you're like, but it's Yoel, and I hate to see him go.
On paper. I mean, most of us probably saw the news on social media. And so along with that, we saw the post that like ESPN and them did of different Yoel Romero moments. Of him doing the break dancing on stage next to Izzy. and when they asked if his leg was hurt and he got up and he salsa'd, and like, man, he was just so on point. I love you with Michael Bisping.
I love you, boy.
Like, he brings you, oh man, there's something about him. And just, again, when you talk about natural athleticism and physicality and genetics, Yoel Romero is probably the finest tuned looking athlete I've ever seen in my life. For a mid-40s to still look and perform as he does, his body to still be like that. And to hear some of the stories in wrestling about what he would do to some of the wrestling greats, he would throw them on their head when he was young. It's incredible. So I'm the same as you. It's sad to see him go. And I do at some point, whenever you want to get into it, Karyn, want to touch on this topic, like you said, of the UFC cutting 60, possibly 60 to 80 fighters by the end of the year. We're talking about in the next 3 weeks, 60 to 80 fighters in the UFC will have lost their jobs. It's scary times. It really is.
It really is, and it's hard because obviously the time of year it's hard for anybody to lose their job.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. It's really tough, and obviously the year has been difficult for all kinds of companies and all that. I think it's hard. It's tough because is it going to be, what are they going to use for the criteria, right? Is it, did you just lose your last couple of fights, or how much sizzle is on your name, or how old are you? Like, I wonder what the algorithm is going to be to figure out, how they cut people. And I think we'd be lying if we didn't say that there have been cards that you're fighting, and a lot of people, I hear this from people like, I don't even know who's on that card, or who's this guy?
Right.
And, maybe some people that they sign off a contender or some of these things are a little green and could use some more development time. So maybe some of the people that they would have put right in the UFC, they'll give the development contracts to instead, or, that kind of thing. Maybe it'll be some of that. And yeah, maybe there is some fluff around the edges of some of these divisions, guys who maybe haven't been as active or are getting older. Right. I don't know, but it sucks, and I'm sorry to hear it. It sucks.
It's sad at this time of year, but yeah, I mean, you named some of the key points. First of all, the UFC's always probably had, for most of our viewers that didn't know this, we've roughly always been around that 500 mark. Yeah. When I think of the UFC roster, I think about 500. Right now, they're 650, 6. I mean, it's very inflated right now. And when you think about why, the Dana White Contender Series is signing like 4 guys a week for a number of weeks. They're on a number of seasons now. They'll also go to the LFA, which is where I came from, and sign like 5 guys in 1 week. If they, they need some spots filled in certain divisions, they'll go and take them from the LFA, because the LFA is like a guaranteed seasoned guy.
Yeah.
And then we also have the international fighters that haven't been able to be as productive as everybody here that is getting to fight in Vegas over the weekend. So I don't know the criteria, like you said, of coming off 2 losses or this or that.
Yeah.
But I feel like they're going to take a bulk of the guys that are making decent money but not as active. The guys that are making 30 and 30, 40 and 40, 50 and 50, but fighting one time a year and coming off of a number of losses, kind of like a Yoel Romero, who's probably making way more than that, and saying, look, these guys aren't doing it anymore. They have a loss. We could cut them and save money, because now we have all these Dana White Contender guys that are making the beginning salary,
the early salary, right?
Yeah, and these guys want to fight every weekend because they're much younger and newer, and we're promoting them. So, and the last one being the international fighters. There's probably a number of guys that every time they go fight in London, they have to sign 4 or 5 guys from London to have that local flavor on the card. But those guys are inactive right now. Those guys are fighting maybe one time a year if they get a fight on Fight Island, and they're not really known names to the masses of the UFC fans. So I can see them cutting some of those guys too. But I tell you what, when I saw the news, Karyn, in all honesty, I go, thank God I won my fight. Thank God I won, because anytime you come off of a loss, you're in fear. It doesn't matter if you've been on a 5-fight win streak with 1 loss, or you kind of like Yoel, 2 wins and a loss, 2 losses and a win, 2 losses again kind of thing. It makes you in fear of your job, because you've seen it before with people that they have cut and that kind of shocked you. So 60 fighters coming up in the next couple of weeks. I will be very curious to see some of those names that me and you might go, oh really? Wow, I thought they were safe.
Yeah, I do think there's going to be some surprises in there, and of course, though, immediately people are like, well, put Yoel Romero up against Gegard Mousasi over in Bellator. They're like, book it now, which would be cool. Again, the question is, we do know as he got older, Yoel did have a hard time making 85. We know that Gegard can fight at 205, but he's a middleweight champion right now, so why would he not do that? But it is exciting, and whether or not Yoel goes somewhere else, he's definitely obviously a name, so I would imagine Scott pick up the phone, but you just never know. And I don't know how much longer Yoel really wants to fight anyway. He is 44 or whatever, something like that. So
crazy.
But bless his heart, he is a physical specimen, like you said, at the workouts. And so we have some footage of him just doing different things. It just kind of blows your mind, so but yeah, he sent me a nice message. I will miss it. I actually really will miss him. And he cracks me up with the "I love you, boy," and the fact that he made that into a hashtag, that "I love you." He really was just great. And I remember having just interesting interviews with him, and sometimes he would be really emotional and almost crying in one of them, and then other times he's funny. Like, he's just an interesting guy. And I really do wish him the best. So good luck to you, Yoel. But so with that said, yes, Marvin's number went up. He was ranked number 12 now going into this fight. He beats number 4. So now we have Italian in the top 5. This was a big deal. Dana was saying, he'll probably move into the top 5 now, right? So that was a very big deal. He's the first Italian that we've had in the top 5. I think they were saying for a second, Romero Borrello might have been, ranked kind of up there. But it's a big deal. The first Italian man ranked in the top 5. And we were joking, getting one step closer to UFC Italy, which would be incredible when the world goes back, because I want to go back to Italy so bad. But when the fight got announced, Marvin was the betting favorite right from the announcement, even though he was actually scheduled to fight Jacare this coming weekend. And Jack was initially supposed to fight Darren Till, then it got moved to Kevin Holland, and then it became Vettori. So Vettori won. He came out strong. I think we were kind of thinking by the end it was 2-2. It seemed like maybe Marvin had won the first one and then lost a couple and then came back. But to me, he definitely won that fight, and I was very happy for him in terms of, when I have nothing against Jacare. I really didn't have a dog in the fight as much as he is from King's MMA, so everybody knows I love my King's MMA guys. But to me, just to see when somebody gets a chance like that and rises to the occasion and really takes the best of an opportunity like that, I think it's great.
Yeah, I thought he absolutely won the fight. He looked very well. I mean, when he was able to drop Jack early in the fight and do some damage, couldn't put him away, but that kind of set the tone for the fight. I'm not saying that type of dominance lasted for 5 rounds, but we got to see, all right, he's jumping up from, like you said, number 13 to number 5. And it's short notice, although he was preparing for a fight. How will he fare in his first main event, the first time an Italian guy doing all this? And he goes out right away, drops Shaq early, and I think it was in the first and second round, puts the pressure. Then it became a bit of a fist fight for the next 4 rounds or so, but you could see him in the last couple of rounds picking up the pace, trying to win that 5th round, doing what he had to do to get the win. He looked great. And like, what jumps off the page to me, Karyn, is he made 2020 his year. He's a guy that was kind of getting overlooked, and he said, you know what, I'm going to run my mouth. And he's a guy that runs his mouth, and he has a funny way of trash talking. He drops the F-bomb like crazy, first of all. I felt so bad for the censor people that were, his interview.
Because every now and then too, Megan's like, oh.
Everybody thought they were having like audio difficulties. No, it was just, you couldn't tell what he was about to say because he's screaming MF for every second. But he's kind of fun, spastic in a way like that.
Yeah.
You're going to get some crazy energy type of interview from him. But that has brought him some of this fame. He backs it up, what he does inside the octagon. But his last fight a couple months ago, I forgot who he was that he fought, but he looked so good in that fight. He kind of let everybody know, look, the division needs to be on check by the way I'm performing. And he ran his mouth. And he's continually stayed on Instagram and Twitter since that last win and called out big names and said, nobody wants to fight me. Everybody's ducking me. Yeah. And he made himself very relative in these conversations about who's some of the top 85ers in the world. So when a short notice fight came about, he was the first guy that the UFC called. He put himself on that list by talking the talk, and obviously he did the walking the walk inside the octagon that night. So Marvin has created this for himself is what I'm getting to. He was able to fight like he needed to fight and get himself in these opportunities to win these big fights, and he did that. So I'm happy for the guy. I saw a picture of him after his fight. He was most likely in the Ramada bubble quarantine hotel that we all stay at. Yeah. In the bright mirror, I took a picture of myself after I was busted up. He did a picture of himself or a video. Right. It was that same lighting, and you can see it. I mean, he was war battered for a 5-round fight. I mean, you know the stats. These guys broke records. Yep. And during the fight, it didn't seem to be affecting them that much. But after the fight is when it tells the story. You see the picture in the good light, and you see every cut and bruise and broken bone. And you see these guys didn't escape this fight unbattered. They were both pretty injured after they went to the hospital or after they got checked out.
Yeah, well, to your point there, yes, in my my After the Facts video, you can see all the records that they did set. But yeah, they actually set a new record for significant strikes landed at that fight. So they landed 286 significant strikes. Vettori landed 164 and Jack landed 122. So 286 significant strikes. So it's a middleweight record now. Previously, it was Whitaker and Yoel, our boy Yoel, had 239 significant strikes when they fought at UFC 225 in their rematch. So yes, they both were wearing it. They both had some damage. And to your point about Marvin really kind of calling his shot. So we were talking a lot about the fact that he took Adesanya to a split decision victory. This was over in 2018. I remember working that fight. And Marvin went the distance, but he lost by split decision. But he came on strong. The longer that fight went, he actually took Israel down in the third round. And he was doing really quite well. And I believe that was the first time Israel had even gone to the distance. So there was a lot of success even in a loss for Marvin. But to your point, yeah, so that was in 2018. So after that, he had a unanimous decision over Mutanchi, Cesar Ferreira. Then he won a unanimous decision over Andrew Sanchez, El Dirty Sanchez. And then he submitted Carl Robertson, who's a big dude.
That's the fight.
And so,
but
like you said,
fight, I thought catapulted him in a way.
Exactly, yeah. So Marvin has been jawing a lot. And yeah, it was a good fight for him to get Jacare. But he was telling us even, he says, I was preparing for Jacare and Jack is different. And Jacare right now is out of the top 15 in the middleweights. But we all know Jacare is Jacare. Like, yeah, I know. That's how good the middleweights are right now, actually, that Jacare's out of the top 15. Shocking. I know. But he's so dangerous. And so Marvin was saying, look, I was preparing for somebody who I feel is even more dangerous on the ground. Yes, Jack has ground and pound, and yes, Jack, it can be very brutal with that. And yes, the last time we saw Jack, he heel hooked Kelvin Gastelum. So it's not that Jack doesn't have a submission game, but he's like, look, I was about to go up against Jacare. So he was really working on the ground stuff, and Marvin has very good takedown defense. I believe it's the highest in the division, and his own takedown accuracy is very high. Might be the second highest in the middleweights or whatever. So he's very good, and yeah, just because maybe the depth of the division and bigger names, we hadn't really paid as much attention to Marvin, but you're absolutely right. Now, we should. And he called out Borrachinha, which is a good fight. Obviously he's talking about getting that rematch if Israel is going up to fight Jan Blachowicz. We're not sure when Israel would be at 85 again. And, even though there is that rematch story, I don't think Marvin earned a title shot quite yet, but right. Even though he's winning and Borrachinha lost, he is coming off a title shot. So if we put Borrachinha and Marvin Vettori together, I think it'd be great. And we were kind of laughing at work. No disrespect, but we were just kind of imagining the trash talk because, like you said, Marvin will just drop F-bombs and listen to me, mother effer, you need to do this. And you're like, wait, dude, what? Wait, slow down. Like, we were just having a nice conversation, and then all of a sudden, you dropped out with the mother effer. But to see him and Borrachinha going at it, I think could be pretty entertaining.
Yeah, no, I agree. And just both of them are like thick-bodied guys that will stand there and trade. Like, when you look at them, like, yeah, let's put these two guys together and let them punch each other. It seems fun. I think it's a smart call out for Vettori. Perfect call out. I think it's a good matchup for him. He likes that stylistic matchup. I think he sees something there that he could weather the storm of Borrachinha and possibly get a finish, and that's a main event type of card. I wonder where Borrachinha's mind is at, coming off of the most devastating loss of his career. We talked about this on the podcast. That was one of those suicide watch type losses. It was a bad one, never been finished. He was embarrassed. He is angry. Does he want to go against the rising star, the dark horse in the division right now, Marvin Vettori, who nobody seems to want to fight? I would be curious. I'd be very curious. Borrachinha is a very proud, he seems like a very proud guy, though. Not one that would say, I'm going to turn down this fight. But I wonder if his management would say, look, we'd rather you get a different stylistic fight or something rather than a guy who just jumped up from number 13 to number 5. Now he's going to take a shot at the number 1 or number 2 guy in you. But I'm all for it. I would love to see the fight. I'm just coming from a perspective of Borrachinha. I wonder if his camp would say, pump the brakes, man. You just got into the big boy top 5 division.
It'll be interesting to see who's available, though, right? Because I just saw the matchup that they have. Uriah Hall is running it back with Chris Weidman.
Yeah.
So that matchup is there. Maybe if Jacare, but that's the whole thing. Jacare is fighting Kevin Holland now this weekend. But
I wanted to ask that. That's crazy. So Jacare was supposed to fight Vettori?
Vettori, right. And so Kevin Holland, so once Darren Till fell out, they gave Kevin Holland the opportunity against against Jack Hermansson. So it was going to be Holland Hermansson. Then Holland got COVID. So Holland got moved out. So then they moved Vettori in. They moved him up a week to fight Jack Hermansson. And meanwhile, he's like, I should have had this fight anyway before Kevin Holland. So why is he here? He's not even ranked. He shouldn't have been here. So Marvin got what he wanted. And then we saw that Marvin really should have had that fight. So then they just swapped and put Kevin Holland into Marvin's initial spot against Jacare.
So perfect. Thank you. I even like the way you gave a graph. It helped. What I'm confused about, my son likes everything. Everything I tell my son, it has to be this, this, and this. Yeah. That's how I like. What I'm confused about, Karyn. Who was it? I'm sorry. This fighting Jacare again, Trailblazer.
No, yeah, Kevin Holland.
Kevin Holland. Thank you. Kevin Holland got COVID. Had to drop out of this past week.
I know they just assumed he'll be ready to fight a week later. No, dude, believe me. When I heard that too, I was like, well, that's a knock wood. A lot of you got COVID and you were feeling better a couple days later. I guess maybe what I'm hoping is that they just knew.
I was very worried though. I was like, am I going to have this residual effect for a couple months? You've seen so many people say they're tired, they're fatigued. I say so many people, a small percentage of people. But you hear these stories of fighters and people saying, I still don't feel right yet. So to get COVID and only fight a weekend after, that's interesting because he hasn't tested. Well, I'm sure he's doing cardio, but has he tested his deep water gas tank yet? You're going to go and fight. But now he's probably fighting a 3-round.
3-round fight. Well, that's the thing. Now it's a 3-round fight because I think he's the second fight on the main card now.
Okay.
So it does take.
Where we're going.
Right,
we're figuring this out on the spot, guys.
Yeah, and Jacare is not necessarily a high pace guy.
Yeah,
but there's a lot to worry about.
But he still accepted this fight however many days ago,
right? And
said, "I'm good." You know, he probably had the same thing as me, a fever for a day or two, and then it was gone. But it's just like, how are my lungs gonna feel? Because if he probably didn't do any training for 3 or 4 days, it's crazy. How long it takes to get into fight shape? Here's our graph again.
Right.
It takes 6 to 8 weeks to get into tremendous fight shape, but it only takes about 7 days to lose cardio. It takes about 7 days. So how many days did he take off? How much little bit of residual cold or sinus or lung effect does he have going into a big fight against Jacare? Again, we just said Jacare is not quite the top 5 guy no more, but damn, this is interesting. It just makes it more intriguing to watch this matchup to see how it performs.
And add to that too the fact that it is, I believe, Kevin's 5th fight this year.
Oh, and he's a gangster at that. I forgot about that. Yeah, because he was the first one to break the record.
Right. So his
4 wins.
Yeah. So on the one hand, I think, look, he's kept his body in great shape all year. Obviously, being able to fight.
He's maintaining.
Right. So maybe even if he has to take this, maybe his baseline has been so good this year already. Or the flip side is his body's freaking exhausted and it's going to hit him hard.
Can the UFC just do an insider show with us talking right now? Because we just broke down this card. I mean, you can't get this shit nowhere else. We just on the spot. You guys are getting this inside right here. As my son would say, like and subscribe.
We need KG Fresh. We need him coming by, dropping that in there. And subscribe. By the way, KG Fresh has got some hands. If people aren't following you on social, they need to be following Alan Jouban on Insta. KG Fresh got some hands there hitting the pads.
I was very happy with that. We haven't touched boxing or mitts all of quarantine probably, and that was the first day back. So I was pretty happy with what we got that day.
Very nice. Well, listen, before we kind of wrap up the Vettori conversation there, though. Yeah, I do like the idea of him against Borrachinha. What's next for Jack Hermansson? I don't know. I feel bad for him because he's a guy that was like, he'll come up and then he'll take that little step back. He'll come up and, because before it was Cannoneer. Yeah. And we were in Copenhagen. That was a big main event. That was supposed to be a big party for Jack Hermansson, and it didn't go his way. This time he had to go through 3 opponents, and it didn't go his way. But Jack has a really nice vibe and a real good personality, and he seems to be able to handle this kind of stuff well. But that's tough. That's a tough setback. It was a tough fight, and no, there's no shame in losing to a Marvin Vettori, but I have to feel like you got to be like, man, I just got taken out by a guy who was ranked 9 spots lower, and shoot, what does that mean for me now,
And he's got to be thinking, like, 2020, why are you doing this to me? I finally, I get my main event, my fight falls through, I get a backup. I say yes right away. I'm going against a hot Kevin Holland. That falls through. I have to take a tougher, last minute Vettori. You got to give the man credit for taking these fights, and not saying that other fighters wouldn't have, but there's negotiating behind the scenes. Oh, now we're gonna take a last minute fight against a tough guy who's ranked this far back. I want extra money, and then there's all these situations. But it seemed like he just said yes right away to whoever the UFC was throwing him. He took it. It was a fantastic fight. He was injured. He broke his toe. I think he said he broke his orbital. He said he broke his eye socket. I hope. This tweet said, like, I think I broke my toe in my eye socket. Eye socket. I'm not a doctor, Karyn, but
I play one on TV.
Right, but I play one on TV very well. And what am I getting at? Bisbing had the detached retina, correct? And so that's different than an eye socket, right? Because you could break your orbital bone. That's what a break. You don't break your eye socket, I believe. So I'm hoping, in a good way, that it is a bone, a fracture, a structural damage, and not eye socket or retina type thing, because that's when it gets more severe. And that's the kind of stuff that us fighters really worry about when you start seeing those little blue spots now and then, or darkness on one side that we go to the doctor. That's what they always test us for. So best wishes to him. Hope it's nothing like that, but pure class at the end. The way that they shook hands and embraced each other and were laughing, and then the tweets back and forth. Big fan of both guys. Very
good, guys. And unfortunately, the COVID bug has taken out my girl, Angela Hill.
Yes, damn. And I thought
so bummed because she's been training and hustling, and she and Tisha were supposed to have their rematch this weekend, and Angie posted that she got the Rona. So she's out. I'm so bummed.
Too. I thought she was totally going to be immune to the Rona because she'd been fighting and training and traveling and doing commentary. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, overkill, Angela Hill. She just got some kind of genetics that she doesn't get COVID. And then because she fights so frequently and stuff. But yeah, that sucks because I know it's been a bit of a layoff for her too, right? As frequently as she normally fights. When's the last time she fought?
She fought Michelle Watterson. That was September.
Okay, so never mind. That wasn't a long ago at all.
I know, yeah, Angie, but
that's true. She fought and then she went to
Fight Island.
Fight Island and stuff. That's true. But I'm so used to seeing her fight like 5-6 times a year. I felt like she didn't quite fight as much as she normally does this year, but maybe I'm wrong. But,
I think she got 3 in this year, maybe. But yeah, so that sucks. So hopefully they find Tisha a fight still, because obviously Tiny Tornado's been hustling too and training. So hopefully, usually in the strawweight division, there's usually girls available. It's just that, what does it mean and what does it matter? And obviously there was a storyline there with the rematch, and their name, hopefully they find Tisha a good fight. And hopefully this weekend fights stay intact, because we saw 3 fights fall off on Saturday. But Alan, really the biggest impact, no pun intended, on Saturday may have come from Jordan Leavitt with that slam. It was just the 12th slam knockout in UFC history. So it was 22 seconds. He was making his debut against Matt Wyman, who he says he used to watch when he was younger. So Matt Wyman is somebody he looked up to. Jordan came out, slammed him in 22 seconds. And as we all saw, we talk about how the way he sort of framed up his neck and everything. So it was 22 seconds. So he also set a record for the fastest debuting finish for a lightweight, making a debut in the UFC. So it used to be 31 seconds when Kevin Kroom submitted Roosevelt Roberts. Now it's 22 seconds for Jordan Leavitt, who slammed Matt Wyman, then does the split, then does the Dirty Dancing
Titanic celebration. Dirty Dancing. That's Titanic.
There was a lot to unpack, Alan.
You're saying it. I mean, this is one guy that doesn't have any shame, doesn't have any fear about the Twitter world, okay? Because you go do a split, or like a stripper split like that, I think he even adds the bounce.
He had the bounce. Split,
but when you bounce at the end, that takes, no pun intended, some balls. Oh, man. But then he follows it up with the Dirty Dancing. Wow. He's an interesting character. Congratulations to him. I get so jealous, Karyn, when I see these guys with these 22-second knockouts in the UFC, and then they get to booty shake and do all this stuff, and they're uninjured, and they go party, and I'm like, why am I always in the emergency room after every fight? And these guys are getting bonuses. You can't write it any better. To come to the UFC, make your debut, have a slam knockout. Dana White was probably going ape shit over it. You get out of there unscathed. He got the 50G bonus, and as you said, he did it over a legend, a veteran in the sport that we've known for a while, a guy that he watched for a while. So congratulations to him. That was amazing. On the other side of the card, of the cage, Matt Wyman. I always enjoyed watching Matt Wyman. Good fighter, good personality, good everything. I don't. His last couple of fights haven't been great, and it's like I was so excited to see him come back his previous fight.
Yeah.
Didn't quite look that good. You kind of think this might have been a better matchup. Held on to that too long. You shouldn't. Anytime you're off the ground,
right,
you have no movement, right, and so you're vulnerable. I wish he would kind of let go sooner. But yeah, I don't know what happens to Matt, man. I hope the best for him. I really do. It was tough to see that for a guy that's been in the sport so long. And then apparently his wife cornered him. Was that what was going on?
I think so, because Jordan then went over to speak with her on the way out, because Matt was down for a really long time too, which was also very scary. He was down for a really long time. And then when he woke up, it was that definite sort of look around, like, what happened?
What happened?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a wild thing when you get knocked out because you don't know what happened, and they have to tell you again. And
so Jordan went over to speak with his wife. So Matt, the last fight he had was that Joe Selecki fought. It was a unanimous decision it was last December. So Matt hadn't even fought for almost a whole year anyway.
And before that, it was
he fought Luis Pena. He fought Bob Ross, Violent Bob Ross, and he lost that one too. So now this is 3 losses in a row for Matt Wyman. The last fight he won was in 2014 in the UFC. He beat Isaac Valley Flag, and then he took a break. Oh, yeah. He was gone from 14 to 19 in the UFC. So
that's what I meant. So there was a 5-year stint, no fighting. Then he came back and lost 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I hate to say it because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the UFC could cut me. Who knows? I mean,
we don't know. I mean, Dana said he's cutting people, so Matt might be one of these people.
And honestly, look, I'm saying my blessings every night. I'm saying my prayers that I'm not on that list too, because you just really don't know. They could look at me and say, look, Alan's 39 years old. He's talking about retirement. Maybe we let him go. I would hope not, because I love the UFC and I want to continue my career doing other stuff with the UFC for many years. With that said, to stay on this topic, that loss puts Matt in that high percentage of guys that they're going to be looking to do, where maybe you've seen it before. Remember when Dan Hardy and other guys lost 4 in a row, and Carlos Condit, and, but we keep these guys because they're veterans, and the sport was built when they were with the sport. But in COVID times, in 2020, and when the roster's inflated by over 150, 200 people more than the average, damn it. Yeah. It's
tough, but again, a Carlos Condit, even with 4 losses in a row, it's Carlos mother freaking Condit. Like, he'll put butts in the seats still. Yeah. So that's why I'm talking about that algorithm, that there are certain names. Cowboy can lose 17 in a row. Nobody cares.
Yeah, true. You cut Cowboy?
You can't cut Cowboy.
I'm walking
off. We're all leaving. You cut Cowboy, we're all leaving.
I'm walking off. Yeah, that would be like, huh? Like that would hurt my heart.
No, it would hurt. It would hurt. Well, it hurt a lot, but with your Andersons and stuff like that. But again, Anderson, Yoel, that kind of thing, you can understand it a little bit more. They're older. They're at the end of the road. Whatever. They're closer to the end. But yeah, so for Jordan, it was funny because I was joking with Kamaru and Rashad on the set. Like, what's worse? Getting knocked out, getting slammed, knockout, and being on the receiving end of that, or looking up and seeing your opponent who just beat your ass doing the dirty dancing lift. And Kamaru was like, man, I don't know, man. He's like, I might have to see you outside in the parking lot if you did that after you beat me too. Right. And it was funny because you kind of mentioned it. Jordan is a unique guy. We did a whole story on him, how he revels in his uniqueness. He knows he's different from everybody. He calls himself the Monkey King. He's not worried about being different. And all his coaches were talking about how different he is from everybody, and that is what holds him, keeps him separate from everybody else, and makes you notice him because he's so unlike everybody else. Unfortunately, I do know that, as soon as that happened in the split and the booty pop and all this, lots of negative stuff came out about him. But and so hopefully he has thick skin or doesn't look at social media or doesn't care. But one thing that was interesting, I tweeted it because when right after the slam, he had only 250 followers on Twitter. And so now I want to look actually and see how many he has, because I was like, this is going to be interesting because there's no way these numbers aren't going to blow up like crazy big. And so, so let's see, the Monkey King, what is this, Jordan? Leavitt. Let me see. So now Jojo Monkey King, he started at 250. He has 2,484 followers now. Okay?
Hey.
So 2,484. And yeah, the other day when I did the screen grab, he only had 250 followers.
Man, that's not a lot at all. I mean, but he's probably not on Twitter. Why were you seeing some of the negative comments that he was getting?
He had 270 followers. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't want to get into necessarily disparaging.
Was like this guy's gay or something like that?
Yes, he has a wife who is pregnant.
Oh.
Who is going to be giving birth very soon. But a lot of people were just not. They were just trying to be mean to Jordan about.
Yeah. He's obviously unique. Got a wife and a kid.
Yep.
Guy's not gay. Not that there would be anything wrong with it, but I'm just saying, like, you can't go that route. Guy's got a family and a kid. He's unique. When you own your uniqueness, it's like it's a slap back in your face.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you do splits. That's so gay.
Right.
Yeah, dude, I do splits.
And I kill him. Right.
Boom. You know what I mean? Like, it's like when you own your uniqueness, it makes you much cooler than the person that's being negative. So congrats to that dude, man. Man, there was something else I wanted to say about him. Oh, I gotta say, when I first saw him, it was fighting in another organization.
Okay.
It might have been LFA or something like that. And I had my doubts. I saw the guy, and they built him up this way. This guy's unique. This guy's different. His coach and his commentators were talking about it. And he came out, and he won very fast. And I go, well, that was a fluke. That was a fluke. There's no way. Like, this guy did some weird stuff. I think he got, like, a heel hook and, like, no time. I was like, okay, so he's like a heel hook guy. But every time I see this guy fight, it's a fluke. This guy is so good. It's not a fluke anymore. I realize he's very unique in his personality. His fighting style is very unique. And he's got something different about him that's high percentage. He finds ways to win, and he does good at it. So, man, shout out to him. What's his Monkey King? Shout out to the Monkey King and the monkey. He's got to have, like, a hashtag, like the beehive, like Beyonce.
Right.
Or the monkey king vibe, whatever they are.
Something.
You're better at words than me, but.
Well, that's why I was laughing before when you said Dana went ape shit. I was like, oh, that's funny. That's like a play on,
I didn't even know.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, monkeys and apes are different, though. Monkeys have tails. Apes don't.
For real?
Yeah.
Oh, but he gets to maybe go ape shit. Hashtag go
right,
ape shit.
And I'm pretty sure, I know I'm digressing, but literally I believe that's why Curious George makes me crazy. Because if I'm not mistaken, Curious George does not have a tail. So I think Curious George is actually an ape. Like, I think, but they call him a monkey. Anyway, I digress.
You learned something new,
But
guys.
I'm almost positive that monkeys have tails and apes don't. But I could be wrong. Anybody who knows more about this, please feel free to comment below.
I just thought an ape was like a much stronger monkey. I don't know the difference.
Right, but could you imagine a gorilla with a tail?
No. That's like when I see bulldogs. Or pit like with the long tail and a bulldog. I'm like, no, bulldogs don't have tails. They just have the little curly thing.
I will. You know, because I'm that chick. I will Google and look up the difference between monkeys and apes. But I'm almost positive apes don't have tails. But anyway, so good on Jordan for making that debut. My whole thing with him is he's so cerebral. He's a lightweight. I know Ryan Hall usually fights at featherweight. But to me, I was like, oh, if you put Ryan Hall, the Wizard, and the Monkey King together, in terms of their approach to this and their uniqueness, to me, that's an interesting matchup. But Ryan Hall, is already way ahead of Jordan in terms of opponents that he's beaten and stuff like that. But just in my brain, it was sort of like this cerebral matchup. But looking ahead, if we're talking cerebral matchups, Alan, it's the perfect segue to talk about the fight I'm most looking forward to this weekend, Charles Oliveira versus Tony El Cucuy Ferguson. I can't even, my armpits are starting to sweat. I can't express enough what a big fan I am of both of these fighters and how I'm so looking forward to this, but it absolutely breaks my heart to see them fight each other because I don't want either of these guys to lose. I have been an Oliveira fan. I forget the first fight it was. Maybe it was one way back. Maybe it was even Nick Lentz or I don't even know, something. And I saw him doing this and doing that, and Oliveira got up and backpacked somebody and did a standing charge. I'm like, who is this guy? He's just incredible. So been a fan for years and years, and you and I know, obviously. We're going to be sharing a lot of the stuff of our shoot with you and Cucuy Tony was always so interesting to me just because, again, owning your uniqueness. He was a guy that even from the very beginning, Tony was just different and didn't pretend to not be different and owned his difference. And that's what was so appealing about him to me. Yeah. And then you throw in how talented a fighter he is too. Tony to me is just must-watch television. So they're both so scrappy. Tony has had to dig more in his fights. We've seen Tony go through more wars than Oliveira. But the fact that they're both so crafty with their submissions and all that, I can't wait. I can't wait.
It's going to be an interesting matchup. You know what I found interesting too? Have you seen on Instagram sometimes they do a face swap with the two fighters?
Yes.
When they did a face swap with these two, I almost didn't even notice the difference. I mean, they were like very similar. I mean, they've got kind of some of those same bone structural similarities going on. And they have a lot of similarities in their fighting style. They're both very dangerous guys. Obviously, Oliveira is a little bit quicker on his submission than Tony, but you can't count Tony out when it comes to the Darces and grabbing the head. But I think this fight's gonna try to take place on the feet. It'll be interesting to see, though. I'll be so almost, as much as we love the war and that both men bring on the feet, the blood and guts that Tony brings in every fight, and Charles Oliveira, he's been looking phenomenal on the feet lately. I'll almost be more intrigued to see if they went to the ground, how does Tony fare against Oliveira on the ground and who's on what dominant position. It'll be interesting. But as good as Charles is on the ground, you've seen guys like Anthony Pettis. So I believe Anthony Pettis submitted him. Donald Cowboy Cerrone got on top, shrugged off any bottom attacks, and was able to ground and pound him out. So guys that are really good on the ground are able to kind of defend some of his stuff. Not always, because he's in the record books. He's got the most submissions in UFC history. But I'm digging into this fight. I'm digging it. Play on words right there. I'm digging too much into this fight, but I dig the fight as well. It's going to be a good one. I don't know how it's going to go down, but I expect a lot of blood.
This is one of those where I wish it was a main event because I want 5 rounds. I just want time. That's the thing that I most importantly in this fight, I don't really care who wins or loses. I just want at least a round and a half, 2 rounds, because they're so good. And I don't want somebody. I think they're both so good that one of them wouldn't get finished that quickly, if that makes sense. Right. But
that's what I think.
Yeah. So for me, I can't even wait because they're so well matched. They're so competitive. Their skill sets are just so interesting to me to see the two of them go together. Like you said, visually they're very similar, and style, like they both have the long arms, the long
I could be setting myself up to eat my own words, but I feel like I don't see Oliveira finishing Tony. I feel like Tony's too durable and too crafty and scramble ability on the ground for him to get submitted. I could see Tony hurting Charles, and then like in a ground and pound situation, hitting him with elbows, getting full of blood, the ref steps in type of thing. But like you just said, I could see both of these guys putting on a show for 15 minutes, and when the bell rings, they're like, oh no, why wasn't this a main event or something? That's, to me, the more likely proposition of happening.
Yeah, I cannot wait. But also what's great about that fight is the way we have the potential for these great scrambles and these great exchanges. We have the same thing in the main event as well. Deiveson, Figueiredo, Brandon Moreno. As you said at the beginning of the show here today, they both fought on the same card as you. That was the UFC 255 on November 21st. A lot of people thought Brandon Moreno should have had the title shot over Alex Perez anyway. Mm-hmm. I'm one of them. No disrespect to Perez, but I'm a big, huge fan of McLovin, the babyface assassin, Brandon Moreno. Every time we would work UFC Now and I would see him there, I would always have to run in and give him a hug. I just love that kid. And part of it is because he came to us on The Ultimate Fighter. I remember working that season in Tough Talk and everything. He was the last pick on The Ultimate Fighter. He went through and did so well on that show. He was the youngest kid on there. He was in the UFC, then he went away for a while, got cut, came back. I just really like Brandon's story, and I really love watching him fight. He's so exciting. He has so much heart. We've seen him in wars, and I love his ability to stay composed and stay in a fight even when things are going really badly. And I just love watching him scramble. I think Deiveson is very powerful and has already that carries himself like the champ in terms of like, oh, you got to take this from me. I already see that with him, and he is very powerful and has that knockout power. But Brandon, I think even if you hurt him, he stays in there a long time and has that ability to pull something off in a scramble exchange. So I'm really excited.
And in a way, the bad luck of Moreno not getting that title shot ended up being the good luck for both of them, because both of them fighting on the same card that I did, getting the quick win, got an easy, no disrespect to their opponents, but an easy payday in terms of didn't take any relative damage.
Yeah.
And then they were able to set back up 3 weeks later and go and headline another card. I mean, it's a tremendous opportunity for both men. Dana White's happy, the UFC is happy, both fighters are happy. So everything worked out beautifully for all of us. We're happy because now we get to see this matchup that maybe should have happened earlier, but both men are primed and ready to go. And they're both coming off of, both of them got a guillotine finish too, right? They both got.
Well, Brandon Moreno, remember Brendan Royval? His shoulder popped out.
Shoulder, yeah, okay, but wasn't it? Yeah, it was off the.
But it was still. But I mean, Brandon caused it, so.
Yeah, he did it. It was still early finishes.
Yep.
So it's a good setup for this fight. I mean, both guys fought on the same day, the same night, a couple weeks ago, and both got early finishes in their fight. And now the two likelihood that was supposed to meet anyway are meeting. But it's got a fire ass. It's one of those fights that, like, the main event is meaningful in terms of who will be the next crowned champion, but the co-main event is one you cannot get out of your seats to watch.
Right. Yeah. Let's just pray to the COVID gods.
Yeah, I know.
Pray to the COVID gods.
And as soon as the show's done, the entire card's canceled because, I know.
I know.
You never know what's going to happen.
I know. Well, it is tough for us because we do a lot of prep work, and then on Saturday, 3 fights right away just get completely dumped. And so then, I was backstage and I was talking with Megan because, when we have reports, we have all these things, and then that eliminates this, pulls this out from here. You don't get to do this thing. And the thing that sucks is sometimes there'll be somebody that on there that you have a story like, oh man, I found this really great story and I went and I did this interview with him and we had this whole cool thing to tell. And you can't wait to tell this story and build them up and then womp, womp, canceled. Or they just blow it off right at the last minute. Oh, we're running heavy. We can't do your report. You're like, mother crapper, I spent all this time.
Me and Karyn, for our viewers, are working the December 19th card coming up, fire card. But
totally,
I haven't started studying it yet because they keep having changes. The main event fell out. Yeah. Other fights fell out. So, but now, in good news, Showtime Pettis is on that card. So,
yes.
Got a little bump to it there. But, I'm so hesitant to start studying it because you never know what happens right now during COVID times. One fight we didn't talk about, the boxing had a big fight.
Yes, I didn't really get to watch it, so yeah, you got to fill us in.
I watched it. I'll just give you a short review. It was Errol Spence making his return. If you guys remember, getting a bad Lamborghini accident. I don't remember if it was a year. Oh,
that's right. That's right. Not right.
I mean, it demolished this man's face. He would never fight again. All these things. This was his fight back after that severe car wreck. He was coming against Danny Garcia, who's a proven guy but has some losses. Mm-hmm. And Spence just looked. His jab was just on point. He won the fight pretty easily and for everyone's eyes. But he looked on point. Wasn't an super exciting fight. But coming back from the Lamborghini accident, I was glad to see him get that victory. With that said, I got one bone to pick, Karyn. Was this HBO boxing or whatever it was? My buddy called, hey, you want to come over and watch the fight? I go, yeah, come over. I go, what's it on? He goes, it might be pay-per-view. I was like, all right, no worries. It's not that big of a name fight. Probably $20-$30, right? No, $20-$30. What am I talking about? What is this, bare knuckle?
What is it, 1977?
I know. Oh, I don't know. I was like, yeah, it's not Mayweather. It's not a UFC stacked pay-per-view card end of the year. Right. No, it's one decent fight to see how the guy does when he comes back with no undercard. $75. $75. And the card was pretty much, the co-main event went one round. It was a 6'5", 154-pounder, knocked out a guy in one round.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. That's super welterweights, right? Yeah, I did see a little bit of that. Right.
Yeah, I mean, he was intriguing, but we got to see him for 4 minutes. And then that was it. And so, yeah, boxing. You take $75 on our money. You give me kind of a snooze fest card. And now we got Mayweather versus Logan Paul.
I was just going to say that.
What is going on? What is going on? Mike Tyson just had his comeback. 75 for a boring card. Mayweather's fighting 6'1", 199-pound Logan Paul. I feel like the UFC right now, and look, I'm a boxing fan, but the UFC is like a well-oiled machine right now, choo-chooing through the world, and boxing is trying to find itself again in this new world. It's like they're like, where are we if we're not the 1990s of heavyweight boxing? Where are we today? I feel like they're all over the place at this point.
It's tough. At least on the Tyson one, we had Snoop and we had some other things, right? And they kind of made
dope card.
The whole thing.
It was crazy.
But it's funny because I was actually going to bring up the Mayweather thing because I think I saw if you buy it before a certain date, it's $29.99, and then if you buy it after a certain date, it was going to be more. But I saw that the other day. I was like, come on, son, like come on.
Done? I was like, is this smart or is this genius or not? Because I don't know
it's weird. It's weird. And to your point, I used to work for Showtime Championship Boxing. I worked for them for 3.5 years. I loved it. It was great. I covered Diego Corrales fights. I did Vasquez Marquez. I did some incredible fights. I did a lot of James Toney fights and Vic Darchinian. Really good stuff. Fighting was great. This was in like early mid 2000s and stuff, and like stuff was still, it was great. We were getting really good fights. And yeah, I know what you're saying. The relevancy is weird. We don't have as many big names. I mean, we can't see Tyson Fury fight all the time, which would be great, but so it is weird, and it's like they're the what do you call it? Like the stunt fights and these things, to just try to bring some awareness. And you're bringing eyeballs back to boxing, but at what cost? Because people are starting to think that the sport is being diminished and we're not taking it seriously. Now we're putting a YouTuber against the greatest boxer ever. Like, what are we doing here? And it is hard. I don't love it, and I don't love the freak show aspects of that. I mean, I love if somebody can get paid. Okay, I guess I'm not mad at you, but
right.
I don't want to watch Floyd fight Jake Paul.
That one's just too big of a.
Stupid.
It's just like Logan Paul and Floyd just don't make any sense, and he took about like 50, 60 pounds apart in weight and height.
Yeah, it's dumb.
And that's just look. I'm not opposed to fighting one of these and making money. Like you said, we're not against people making money, but they need to be somewhat like reasonable, relevant matchups. And I hear Snoop Dogg is now coming out with the league as well, where it's going to be like former athletes fighting other former athletes or boxing stars and stuff. And so, and I think that show that Mike Tyson was on was somewhat done with Lil Wayne, and they're doing it. So boxing is taking an interesting turn right now. Again, I like the aspect of making money. If I could fight on one of these, I would. Right. But the sport for the purists of boxing, it's gotta hurt. It's gotta hurt your heart. When you go back to the different promotional belts and weight classes and the best fighters in the world, and now what they're getting is entertainment. They're getting entertainment. They're not getting boxing. So we'll see where it goes. But $75 is too much, HBO or whoever it was.
That hurts. That hurts. Well, I am not. I'm not working this weekend, but you and I are going to be working on the 19th, which is great now. Like you said, them putting Pettis on there. We already have Wonder Boy in the main event. Like, we're getting a nice strikers on the card, which will be fun for you to talk about. So I'm definitely looking forward to that one. But in the meantime, we'll be cranking some stuff out this week here for folks to kind of tune into. And hopefully, your Christmas shopping's going okay. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I actually love buying things for people, but I know in LA here now we're not supposed to really go places. I don't know what you're doing for your shopping. If you did it all, I can do some of it online, but I like going to the mall to like buy stuff for people, and I don't know if I should do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you have any stock in Amazon right now, you're probably doing well, whatever. Not that I do that, but I'm all over Amazon. I'm just ordering stuff. The doorbell has been ringing. Right. That's how I do my shopping this year. I try to get it done in like one day. I try to order everything. Nice. And then so I don't forget about it and I'm done with it. Yeah, I might make a list, and I might do a little sip and shop later, But little sip and shop. Sip and shop in person is more fun when you get the girls together and you sip and shop. But sip and shop online, it actually can be a little more dangerous because it's so easy. You know what I mean? Yeah. I did get a part to my gun delivered today, so I'm kind of happy about that. That wasn't sip and shopping. That was just sober shopping. Okay. All right, cool. Well, listen, so
Wade puts all of these up as audio downloads as well, so you can go to mma.audio to find all of our shows there for audio downloads, and you can follow him as our producer, Wade Eck, across the board here. I am at KB Heat on Instagram, Karyn Bryant everywhere else. Please, as KG Fresh would say, like and subscribe. Like and subscribe to MMA Heat channel, Karyn Bryant channel, like and subscribe. Alan, where does everybody find you?
Yeah, and same to me, guys, at Alan Jouban, all my social media platforms. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. All right, cool, folks. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, y'all.